In the dead of night, history didn't whisper, it roared. April 2026. The impregnable Negev radar base, the all-seeing eye protecting Israel's southern front, has been obliterated. 42 Fattah-2 hypersonic missiles, launched in a single merciless swarm, traveling at Mach 15, twisting, dancing, laughing at every defense system on Earth. In just 11 minutes, they turned $5.2 billion of American and Israeli military technology into smoking ruins. The heart of Israel's early warning network gone. Iron Dome, overwhelmed. Arrow 3, blind. David's sling, silent. And now, the Pentagon is frozen. USS Abraham Lincoln sits motionless in the Indian Ocean. No orders to advance. No retaliation. The greatest superpower on Earth, hesitating. This wasn't just an attack. This was a declaration that the age of unchallenged dominance is over. Tonight, we expose everything. How did 42 Iranian-made hypersonic missiles pierce the most sophisticated multi-layered defense system ever built? What terrifying new technology makes the Fattah-2 nearly impossible to stop? Why is the United States suddenly paralyzed, unable to respond? And most importantly, has the unipolar world order just died in the flames of the Negev desert? The old empire is shaking. A new axis is rising. You are watching the moment the world changed forever. Like this video right now. If you want the uncensored truth, subscribe and turn on notifications because what happens next will shock the planet. Trump Victory Watch begins now. The night of April 26th, 2026 will be remembered as the night Israel's strategic invincibility was shattered. At exactly 1:47 local time, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force launched a coordinated barrage of 42 Fattah-2 hypersonic ballistic missiles from 3 separate sites deep inside Iran. The missiles rose into the sky in perfect synchronization, forming what military analysts are now calling the most sophisticated swarm attack in modern history. Within the first 3 minutes, the missiles climbed to an altitude of over 120 kilometers before diving back into the atmosphere at speeds exceeding Mach 15. Their maneuverable re-entry vehicles began erratic corkscrew patterns, making them almost impossible for radar systems to predict and track. The missiles did not take the shortest route. Instead, they flew a deliberately deceptive path, first heading northwest over Iraq, then swinging south across Jordan before turning west toward the Negev desert. This extended flight profile was designed to exhaust and confuse Israeli and American early warning systems. By 1:52, Israeli Air Defense Command was in full panic mode. The Arrow 3 systems, designed specifically to intercept high-altitude ballistic threats, fired 18 interceptors. David's sling launched another 22. Iron Dome batteries across southern Israel activated and fired 25 Tamir missiles in rapid succession. In total, more than 65 defensive missiles were launched in under 6 minutes. The result was devastatingly one-sided. Only 4 Fattah-2 missiles were successfully engaged and destroyed mid-flight. The remaining 38 missiles continued their terminal descent with terrifying accuracy. At 1:58, the first wave struck the Negev radar base with surgical precision. The primary target was the ELM 2080 Green Pine radar, Israel's long-range early warning system, jointly developed with the United States at a cost of over $1.2 billion. 8 Fattah-2 missiles slammed directly into the massive radar arrays, turning the billion-dollar installation into a blazing inferno within seconds. Simultaneously, another 12 missiles hit the hardened command and control bunkers, communications towers, and secondary radar systems supporting the base. The final wave targeted fuel depots and power generation facilities, ensuring the entire complex would be rendered inoperable for months, if not years. The entire engagement lasted just 11 minutes and 14 seconds. When the smoke cleared at dawn, the scale of destruction became horrifyingly clear. The Negev radar base, considered the cornerstone of Israel's southern air defense architecture, was 95% destroyed. Independent satellite imagery confirmed at least 17 Israeli personnel killed and over 40 wounded, including several high-ranking officers from the Israeli Air Force and Intelligence Corps. Damage assessment teams from both Israeli and American sources had placed the total financial loss at approximately 5.2 billion US dollars. This figure includes the physical destruction of radar systems, replacement costs for expended interceptors, and the strategic degradation of Israel's overall air defense posture. What makes this attack particularly alarming is the complete failure of multi-layered defense systems that were supposed to be impenetrable. The Arrow 3, touted as the world's most advanced exo-atmospheric interceptor, proved ineffective against the Fattah-2's combination of extreme speed and continuous atmospheric maneuvering. David's sling, designed for medium-range threats, was overwhelmed by the sheer saturation of the swarm. Even the Iron Dome, while not primarily responsible for ballistic threats, failed to provide any meaningful backup coverage. Military experts watching in real time described the attack as a textbook example of hypersonic saturation warfare. By launching 42 advanced missiles in a single pulse, Iran forced Israel to expend its most expensive defensive assets at an unsustainable rate. The cost ratio alone tells the story. Iran spent an estimated $50 to $60 million on the entire operation. Israel and the United States lost over $5 billion in assets and defensive munitions in return. This was not a lucky shot. This was the result of years of deliberate Iranian engineering focused on creating weapons specifically designed to defeat American and Israeli defense architectures. The Fattah-2 demonstrated not only raw speed but also advanced electronic warfare capabilities that reportedly jammed Israeli radar guidance systems during the critical terminal phase. As the sun rose over the burning wreckage of the Negev base, one thing became crystal clear to defense planners in Tel Aviv and Washington. The rules of engagement in the Middle East have fundamentally changed. The era when Israel could rely on technological superiority alone to guarantee absolute security has ended. The question now is no longer whether Iran can strike deep inside Israel. The question is what will happen when the next wave comes, and whether the United States is prepared for the consequences of a direct regional war that it can no longer control. At the core of this historic strike lies a weapon that has rewritten the rules of modern warfare: the Iranian Fattah-2 hypersonic missile. This is not a borrowed Russian or Chinese design. This is pure Iranian engineering, developed, tested, and mass-produced by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps under the harshest sanctions in history. A shining example of true self-reliance. Let's break down what makes the Fattah-2 so terrifyingly effective. First, the speed. Iranian sources claim the Fattah-2 reaches Mach 15, that's 15 times the speed of sound, or roughly 18,500 kilometers per hour. Even conservative Western estimates place it well above Mach 10. At that velocity, a missile fired from central Iran can reach the Negev desert in under 8 minutes. Once it enters its terminal phase, the hypersonic glide vehicle separates and begins continuous, unpredictable maneuvering inside the atmosphere. Traditional ballistic missiles follow a predictable arc. The Fattah-2 does not. It twists, dives, and corkscrews at hypersonic speeds, rendering most radar tracking algorithms useless. The missile uses a two-stage propulsion system, a solid fuel booster for the initial launch, followed by a liquid-fueled hypersonic glide vehicle that allows sustained maneuverability during re-entry. This hybrid design gives it both the range officially 1,400 to 1,500 kilometers and the agility to defeat layered defenses. Its warhead carries between 200 and 450 kilograms of high explosives, more than enough to destroy hardened radar installations and command bunkers. Now compare this to what it faced on the night of April 26th. Israel's pride, the EL-M2080 Green Pine radar, is one of the most advanced long-range ballistic missile detection systems in the world. Operating in L-band frequencies, it can track threats up to 900 kilometers away. It feeds data directly to the Arrow 3 exo-atmospheric interceptors, which are designed to destroy incoming missiles in space before they re-enter the atmosphere. Each Arrow 3 missile costs between $2.5 and $3 million. David's sling, the mid-tier system, fires Stunner interceptors at roughly $1 million each. Iron Dome, though primarily for rockets and drones, was also activated as backup, with Tamir missiles costing around $50,000 to $100,000 per shot. In total, Israel and the United States fired more than 65 interceptors that night. The cost of those defensive missiles alone exceeded $100 million, and they only managed to destroy 4 Fattah-2s. Do the math. Each Fattah-2 is estimated to cost Iran between $1 and $1.5 million, a fraction of what Western systems spend on a single interceptor. Iran launched 42 missiles for an estimated total of $50 to $60 million. In return, they inflicted $5.2 billion in damage and forced the expenditure of hundreds of millions in defensive munitions. This is asymmetric warfare at its most brutal and effective. But raw numbers don't tell the full story. The real breakthrough is technological. During the terminal phase, the Fattah-2 reportedly activated advanced electronic warfare countermeasures. These systems jammed and deceived Israeli radar guidance, creating ghost targets and saturating the command network. Multiple independent analysts now believe the Fattah-2 incorporates quasi-ballistic trajectory shaping combined with plasma stealth effects generated by its extreme speed, a natural ionization cloud that can temporarily blind radar systems. This technology was developed domestically in Iran. Despite decades of sanctions, Iranian engineers mastered solid and liquid rocket propulsion, composite materials that withstand hypersonic heat, and precision inertial satellite guidance systems accurate to within 10 meters. The Road Mobile Transporter Erector Launcher TEL design means these missiles can be hidden, moved quickly, and fired from dispersed locations, making preemptive strikes almost impossible. Iran has demonstrated the ability to launch from deep underground facilities and mobile convoys, further complicating any attempt at neutralization. This single strike proves something the West has long tried to deny. Iran has closed the technological gap in hypersonic weaponry. While the United States continues to struggle with its own hypersonic programs facing repeated test failures and budget overruns, Iran has deployed an operational system that just defeated the most advanced multi-layered air defense network money can buy. The Fattah-2 is not a one-off wonder weapon. It represents an entire family of missiles in production. Iranian officials have already hinted at longer-range variants and even more advanced glide vehicles on the horizon. What happened in the Negev desert was not luck. It was the inevitable result of a nation that chose self-reliance over dependency. While others buy expensive American systems and pray they work, Iran builds its own cheaper, faster, and deadlier. The message sent that night was crystal clear. Technological superiority is no longer a Western monopoly. The age of hypersonic saturation attacks has arrived, and the balance of power in the Middle East and beyond has shifted forever. While the fires were still raging across the Negev desert, the world turned its eyes to Washington. The reaction from the United States was not one of fury or swift retaliation. It was something far more revealing: stunned silence followed by careful paralysis. At 3:15 Washington time, the Pentagon issued its first official statement, a carefully worded paragraph that said almost nothing. We are monitoring the situation closely and consulting with our Israeli partners. No condemnation of Iran by name. No vows of ironclad support. Just bureaucratic language masking deep shock. Behind closed doors, the mood was far more chaotic. Satellite feeds showing the total destruction of the Negev radar base reached the White House Situation Room within minutes. Senior officials described the atmosphere as grave. For the first time in decades, American military planners were forced to confront a new reality. Their most advanced ally in the Middle East had just suffered a catastrophic defeat, and the United States had no immediate answer. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, positioned in the Indian Ocean, received urgent orders, but not to rush toward the Persian Gulf. Instead, it was told to hold position. No aircraft were launched toward Iranian airspace. No Tomahawk missiles were prepared for launch. The most powerful naval force on Earth remained frozen, waiting for instructions that never came. Why this hesitation from the world's only superpower? The answers are brutal but honest. First, the United States is stretched thin, with ongoing commitments in Europe supporting Ukraine, tensions in the South China Sea, and domestic political divisions reaching breaking point in 2026. Washington simply cannot afford a full-scale war with Iran. Any direct military response risks triggering a regional explosion involving Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi militias, and potentially direct support from Russia and China. Second, the cost-benefit calculation has changed. American defense planners now realize that engaging Iran would require sustained operations against a nation of 90 million people with deeply buried missile sites, asymmetric naval capabilities in the Strait of Hormuz, and hypersonic weapons that have just proven they can penetrate advanced defenses. The economic consequences would be catastrophic. Oil prices would spike above $200 per barrel overnight, sending global markets into freefall. By sunrise, the Biden administration or whoever occupies the White House in April 2026 found itself trapped. Strong rhetoric without action would expose American weakness. Actual military action could ignite World War III. So they chose the middle path: condemnation through press secretaries, emergency calls to Israeli leadership promising support, and quiet back-channel messages to Tehran urging de-escalation. This is the new face of American power: reactive, cautious, and increasingly limited. Meanwhile, U.S. allies watched with growing concern. European leaders expressed deep worry but offered no concrete military commitments. Arab Gulf states, many of whom secretly rely on American protection, suddenly began questioning whether Washington could truly guarantee their security against Iranian missiles. Even inside Israel, furious recriminations began. Israeli officials reportedly told their American counterparts that your systems failed us when we needed them most. The geopolitical earthquake extends far beyond the immediate conflict. For decades, the United States has maintained its global dominance through the perception of overwhelming military superiority and the promise that it would always protect its allies. That perception cracked badly on April 26, 2026. The Negev strike demonstrated that America's technological edge is no longer absolute. Billions spent on missile defense systems sold to allies around the world, proved vulnerable to a determined adversary using much cheaper weapons. This single event will force every nation on Earth to reconsider its strategic calculations. Countries that once automatically aligned with Washington are now asking a dangerous question: if America cannot protect Israel, its closest partner, what chance do we have in a real crisis? Inside the United States, the political fallout is already beginning. Republican voices are loudly criticizing the administration for weakness and calling for maximum pressure on Iran. Progressive Democrats warn against being dragged into another Middle East war. The American public, exhausted by endless foreign conflicts, shows little appetite for escalation. This hesitation is not temporary. It reflects a deeper structural shift. The era of unipolar American dominance, where Washington could dictate outcomes through sheer power, is fading. The rise of a multipolar world with Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea forming an increasingly coordinated axis has created real checks on American power. The Pentagon's freeze is not just about one radar base. It is the visible symptom of a superpower discovering its own limitations in real time. As the smoke continues to rise over the Negev, one uncomfortable truth hangs over Washington: the rules have changed, and America is no longer writing them. The question that keeps American strategists awake tonight is simple yet terrifying. What happens when the next Iranian strike is even bolder? Will the United States finally act, or will it continue to freeze while the old world order burns? Beyond the missiles, beyond the radar wreckage, and beyond the technology, there is something far more powerful that decided the outcome that night: the unbreakable human will. This is what no amount of American money, no billion-dollar defense contracts, and no NATO alliances can ever manufacture: the raw, burning determination of a people fighting for their dignity, their sovereignty, and their future. The Iranian soldiers and engineers who built and fired those Fattah-2 missiles did not do it for oil, money, or foreign promises. They did it because they believe deeply and fiercely that their nation will never kneel to foreign domination. For over 4 decades, Iran has endured the harshest sanctions, constant threats, and unrelenting pressure from the world's superpower. Yet, instead of breaking, they have grown harder, more innovative, and more defiant. That is the power of national will. Compare this to the other side. Israeli and American forces rely on the world's most expensive technology systems built by corporations chasing profit, operated by soldiers who fight for contracts and career advancement. Their strength is borrowed money, borrowed alliances, borrowed courage. When the missiles rain down and the cost becomes too high, that borrowed power begins to hesitate. It freezes. Just as we saw with the Pentagon and the USS Abraham Lincoln, history has taught this lesson many times. In Vietnam, a small nation with limited weapons but infinite spirit defeated the greatest military machine of its era. In Afghanistan, determined fighters sent superpowers home humiliated despite their trillion-dollar arsenals. Technology matters, but spirit multiplies it. Will turns cheap missiles into strategic game changers. On April 26th, Iranian operators sat in underground command centers, knowing full well that retaliation could come at any moment. Yet they pressed the launch buttons without hesitation. That is not fanaticism. That is the quiet, steel-hard resolve of a people who have decided their children will not live as subordinates in a world ruled by Washington. This spirit creates something no radar can detect and no interceptor can destroy: unpredictability and endurance. While empires calculate costs and risks, nations fighting for survival simply refuse to lose. They absorb the pain, adapt, and strike back harder. The Negev strike was not merely a military success. It was a triumph of inner strength over material superiority, of self-respect over submission, of a people who build their own weapons because they refuse to beg for protection. As the fires burn in the desert, this is the uncomfortable truth the West must face. You cannot defeat a nation that has decided it would rather die on its feet than live on its knees. The age of borrowed power is ending. The age of authentic national will has returned, and it is rewriting the map of the 21st century. The fires in the Negev desert did more than destroy a radar base. They lit a signal flare that the era of unipolar dominance is officially over. April 26, 2026 marks a historic turning point, the moment when a sanctioned, isolated nation proved it could strike the heart of America's most important ally, and the superpower could only freeze in response. This single night has accelerated the birth of a truly multipolar world. On one side stands the old order, the United States and its network of alliances still clinging to the illusion of global hegemony. On the other side rises a new axis of sovereign powers: Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea, countries that refuse to accept a world where Washington writes all the rules. This is not just a regional conflict. It is the visible cracking of the post-Cold War order. For decades, America maintained control through technological supremacy and the threat of overwhelming force. That threat has now been exposed as hollow. Nations watching from every continent have taken notice. If Iran can penetrate Israel's defenses and America hesitates, then no ally is truly safe, and no adversary is truly untouchable. Russia has already signaled strong support, offering deeper military cooperation. China has deployed naval assets to protect vital shipping lanes while quietly strengthening its partnership with Tehran. North Korea stands ready to supply more advanced missile technology. Together, this axis is proving that collective self-reliance can challenge even the mightiest empire. The global South is paying close attention. Countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America see a clear message. It is possible to resist pressure from the West and win. The era when nations had to choose between submission or destruction is ending. Meanwhile, NATO's credibility continues to erode. European allies who once trusted American protection are quietly reconsidering their strategic dependence. The illusion of endless American power backed by endless printed dollars and endless military bases is crumbling in real time. What we witnessed in the Negev was not just a military strike. It was the sound of the old world order collapsing and a new, more balanced multipolar system rising in its place. The age of one superpower dictating the fate of humanity is over. The age of sovereign nations deciding their own destiny has begun. History will record this night as the moment the shift became irreversible. The message from the Negev desert is now unmistakable. On April 26, 2026, Iran did not just destroy a radar base, it shattered the myth of invincibility that has sustained American hegemony for decades. 42 Fattah-2 missiles, $5.2 billion in damage, and a superpower that could only watch in silence. This is the new reality. The age of unchallenged dominance is over. The age of multipolar resistance has begun. Nations that choose self-reliance and unbreakable will can now challenge the old order and win. So the question we must all face is this: how much longer can the United States maintain its illusion of global control when its closest allies can be struck with impunity and its response is hesitation? Will Washington adapt to this new world, or will it keep doubling down until the entire system collapses? We are living through the greatest geopolitical shift of the 21st century. The old empire is cracking, a new axis of sovereign nations is rising, and the world will never be the same again. If you want the uncensored truth about what's really happening behind the headlines, then support this channel today. Like this video right now if you believe the era of borrowed power is ending. Share it with everyone who needs to see this. Subscribe to Trump Victory Watch and hit the bell notification because the next chapter is coming faster than you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the United States will finally accept the new multipolar reality, or will it risk everything to cling to the past? Thank you for watching. Stay vigilant, stay informed. This is Trump Victory Watch, where the truth is never censored. We'll see you in the next breakdown. The world is changing. Be ready.